Welcome back, everyone. I am Enrique Acosta Gonzales, and I am joined by Ashkan Tashvir. And in this episode, we will be speaking about leading through crisis, strategies for resilience and adaptability. And Ashkan, this is one of the topics that are very near and dear to my heart because, as we was mentioning before, there is a time where true leadership is shown, and it's definitely when crises show up. And so I'm excited about this conversation.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, everyone, for being with us again, and thank you very much, Enrique. Yeah, of course, the conversation around crisis matters a lot, and that's perhaps where we need leadership the most. Um, so let's create the context. Yeah. So when we talk about crisis, let's say in organizations or in life in general, what does it land to you? Like, what is it? What is it that we refer to as crisis?
Well, I believe it's any time where something unexpected occurs that may
Mhm.
cause a lot of anxiety, a lot of doubt and fear, something out of the control of normal day to day happenings, where
Mm.
a lot of decision making, if not done right, could be very detrimental.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So going from the being discourse perspective, and let's discuss integrity, the sense of integrity that we have. Like integrity being, in general, being a state in which everything is in its rightful place. Let's say, for example, if you have a puzzle, this puzzle, every single piece being in its rightful place, then it's going to, like reveal the full picture that was intended to be there. Yeah. Now, when it comes to any system, including organizations, um, we have these different constituent parts that all together, if they are being fit, if they are fitting together properly, then you're going to have integrity. Then that integrity is going to bring workability. Now, anytime that you have this integrity being shattered, you're slipping away from this state of integrity, then there's a problem. Now, not always these problems of lack of integrity or when the integrity of or the wholeness is being challenged, we immediately refer to it as crisis. But there are times that this um, slipping away from integrity is severe enough that if we are not responding immediately, then it's going to lead to catastrophic disasters. Yeah. And that's basically the context of crisis. And there is this book called The Slight Edge, and in which it talks about burning, the term burning. And we often use that now a lot. So the burning comes from this oil extraction industry, and when you have all these platforms, and the idea behind burning was like, if there is any fire in in one of these platforms, we need to address it immediately. Otherwise, it's going to lead to other platforms, and then it's going to blow everything up. Yeah. So, looking into this analogy, we know that there are times that if we are not swift enough and immediately respond to some matters that are unfolding, then we're going to be dealing with severe consequences that perhaps um, we cannot go back. Yeah. So that's basically the context. Yeah. So now you tell me, Enrique, what can make us present to or attentive to reading these early signs of crisis. Let's say, for example, in life or in organization.
Well, I would say awareness has to be a primal thing in place for you to even recognize that there's
Mm,
something going on.
yeah.
Oftentimes, what happens is that we miss the flags, how they say, right? The all the markings are there, but we just can't read them because we're just not aware enough. And so crises seems to have the upper hand when those times that we cannot even identify that there is a crisis happening.
Definitely, that's a very important part because see, let's say for example, when we're getting closer to a recession, the very first thing you want to do, you want to tell that you are getting closer to a recession, or even if you are in one. Now, often we have a delay in that identification, like realizing that we are actually in trouble, or we can be very soon in trouble. So, and that's part of um, being a visionary leader. It's like, so in the being discourse, in the being framework, or we have this tool called the conception worksheet, which we have videos on that on YouTube and in our podcast if someone is interested. And also, it's in the human being book. Um, I've explained it there. It's a simple but very powerful tool for those people that they don't know about it. So basically, it's a table with four columns. In the first column, we're going to have instances of lack of certain quality of human beings, yeah, or an unhealthy relationship with one. Let's say, for example, um, resilience. Yeah, sorry. Let's say resilience. Yeah. Now, you in the first column, you're going to identify the instances. Looking in retrospect, you're going to go, okay, wait a moment. In the last 3 months, there were instances that I didn't really manifest a healthy relationship with resilience. And then in the second one, you're going to identify the consequences that arise due to that manifestation of an unhealthy relationship with resilience in this case. And in the third column, then you're going to come up with alternative ways that you could have behaved or you could have been. Yeah. Um, uh, if, for example, like you manifested an unhealthy relationship with resilience, you haven't been resilient, and then you that had consequences for you. In the third column, you're going to come up with alternatives. Yeah, asking this question, having the healthier relationship with resilience, what could I have done or how could I have been? Now, the last column, the fourth column, is the outcomes. Like, then you're going to ask yourself, if you have taken that alternative pathway, then what kind of potential outcome that could have been, could have created. So, going through this exercise in looking in retrospect, it's extremely valuable. You're going to develop your sensitivity. You're going to understand deeply how you have been and how you could have been, and that creates possibilities for transformation. Now, so when you are a visionary leader, not only you should be able to look in retrospect in the last couple of months and then identify these instances, but also you want to be able to um, um, do it real time. It's like the moment that you're about to not be resilient, in this case, then you're going to catch yourself, you're going to catch your inauthenticity, you're going to catch your unhealthy relationship with resilience, and then you're going to act upon it differently. Now, as a very polished um, visionary leader, then you're going to go beyond that real time and you're going to be able to develop this ability to predict the consequences that has happened yet. So basically you're going to look into signs of how you are behaving, how your team is behaving, your situational awareness, understanding what's going on in the market, what's going on in the society, and predict the consequences of all of those things in place. And that's a very important part when it comes to crisis management as well. As you said, our authentic awareness, our relationship with awareness, how attentive we are, how what our relationship is with care, um, and our relationship with presence, so we're going to look into all of the things that are unfolding, and we want to be proactive. That's a yet another secondary way of being. We don't want to wait so that life occurs to us where we are being cornered in such a situation that we can't have any say. So therefore, we don't want to be inactive. We actually want to be proactive, reading all signs and then collecting them, predicting the consequences, and prepare the plan, like how we're going to go about it. Now, so that's in an ideal case, but there are times that it gets out of hand, and it's already too late, and you are in the crisis. Yeah. Now you tell me, like, if you are in the crisis, so what sort of things you want to pay attention to?
Well, it's interesting that you had just mentioned about being proactive. So hopefully you have already built a structure around these occurrences, to the point where you can now act accordingly. Now,
Yeah.
let's say you did not, right? Now you're in a pickle because you are potentially in a, and you will feel it. Sometimes I've
Yep.
felt it like a life threatening situation, although it really wasn't, but my body started to act that way. And
Yeah.
so, what you want to do if you're in it is take a step back. Take a
Mm.
step back and start to think, okay, I may have not controlled this very moment, but I'm still in control of the next moment. And so if you could do that, you'll give yourself some grace and some
Yeah.
latitude in order to move accordingly, but have the ability to choose to do so.
Yes. Yes. No, that's very important. So this brings my attention to our distinctions around responsibility. Being the primary cause of the matters life brings to you, regardless of the source. Now, this doesn't definitely mean that you are the source of everything, but it means that at the end of the day, it is you who is going to respond to these matters that life brings to you, hopefully appropriately. And the thing is, in my study of the highest achievers, I've realized that the highest achievers amongst us are the ones that, due to their healthy relationship with responsibility, they um, often try to find the tiniest thread of like string to pull it and make a even little bit of an influence in the direction of the course, steer the course. Yeah, so they want to influence, and even if it's just like 2%, yeah, they're not going to be resigned. Now, this is an indication of their healthy relationship with the responsibility. Yeah, and in order for them to actually come up with potential possibilities that you may not be able to immediately see them, because there is this the invisible, let's call it, yeah, so the invisible in the beginning. You want to have a healthy relationship with freedom. You want to be able to see possibilities beyond what um, majority would be able to see. Yeah, but amongst all of these different qualities and aspects of being, I think what matters a lot is resilience. Yeah, when it comes to crisis, because you're going to be stretched. You're going to be stretched a lot, perhaps. And if you don't have that elasticity, if you don't have that ability to bounce back, then you're going to be in trouble. Yeah. So I think, would you like me to read the distinction resilience to our audience? Yeah. Okay. So resilience is a quality that enables you to bounce back to your original form or even stronger when circumstances in life knock you down. You consistently leverage setbacks to adjust and learn while finding a way to rise up and continue forward rather than letting difficulties or failure overcome overcome you and drain your resolve. A healthy relationship with resilience indicates that you can consistently face difficult circumstances with elasticity without breaking as you might if you were rigid. You trust your ability to endure hardship. Others may consider you to have the patience, strength of character, and capacity to manage pain, discomfort, difficulties, and challenging emotions and impulses. People may feel encouraged by you in your presence when things are tough. An unhealthy relationship with resilience indicates that you may often be defeated, distressed, disarmed, and broken by life challenging circumstances or events. You tend to avoid uncertainty, change, or challenging life experiences. Others may describe you as weak or a victim. Alternatively, you may become entrenched, rigid, or fixed to one spot, making you susceptible to fragility. You may take unnecessary punishment while numbing yourself to your pain, potentially causing you to remain in an unhealthy situation or relationship. So, this is basically the distinction, resilience. And of course, when it comes to the any crisis, when the overall integrity has been challenged severely, then that's one of the most important qualities that actually um, you need. Yeah. So, Enrique, like you tell me a bit more. Do you have like examples where you may find yourself in crisis, and how do you think like the difference between reacting to the crisis and responding to it would be?
Yeah, well, in the military where I served plenty of time,
Yeah.
there was plenty of opportunities for crises, and mostly around mission, right? Mostly around
Yeah.
mission and the completion of the mission. But surprisingly enough, some of those crises moments were when a senior level officer would show up unannounced, right? It's like having your mother and your father just show up at your doorstep, and you're like, crises. You're trying to figure out why they're there, how come they didn't announce all these other things. But in the workforce, it could be something as simple as the boss showing up to your office and you didn't expect it. There are things that you feel a deadline, a deadline
Yeah.
where the boss says it has to happen or we're going to lose money and the time is ticking. So now that's crisis management starts to come into play, right? And that's what we was talking about earlier. Leaders, are you
Mm.
ready? Do you have the forethought and vision to have things in place for such a time as these, right? And so how do you handle those? We mentioned some of the good attributes to be able to do so, but the thing that you have to consider in any crisis is that doing nothing is almost worse than actually doing the wrong thing. So,
Yeah.
how are you going to act? Are you going to
Yeah.
act with integrity in mind? I love that you mentioned the elasticity of that resilience brings to
Yeah.
integrity. And so, are
Mm.
you going to do it hoping that you will be successful and plan on that, even though it may give some setbacks? Or are you
Yeah.
going to say, I'm going to coward behind this crisis and let somebody else do it?
Yeah.
But you can plan for it if you have a proper structure.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, definitely. See, there are multiple different, very well-known frameworks around what to do in crisis management. Yeah, that you use that term. But the intention, like what I hope that we can communicate to our audience today, is not necessarily the step-by-step guideline what to do when it comes to crisis. It's more like about how you can be, how to be in the situation where you are in a crisis. And that's why I'm talking about these key qualities like presence and um, freedom and responsibility, or we discussed proactivity and res- um, and the resilience is one of the most important ones. So it's more about how to be rather than what to do. Yeah, because in order for you to actually do the rightful thing, so that you can address the crisis, then your state of being matters a lot. Um, sorry. One, two, three. Yeah, so your state of being matters a lot. Now, so um, so you mentioned something which is quite interesting, and I think it's worthy of us bringing it up again. You mentioned that doing nothing is some, like doing something is better than doing nothing, and that's actually quite relevant because sometimes we want to be perfect and we want to make data driven decisions, as it is said. But when it comes to the time of crisis, you don't actually have the luxury to sit there and observe everything and deeply understand whatever is going on, um, and um, and daring to trust your gut and and with whatever preparedness that you have gone through, um, act upon it and try to steer the course that's and like that requires taking risk, that requires you to be extremely vulnerable because as a leader maybe you're not going to come up with the best decisions, and then you're going to be accountable for it later on. But at the end of the day, that's exactly like the moment that no one else is going to be initiating something or making a decision, then someone should. And the idea here is like, of course, you're not going to come up with the perfect decision, but at the end of the day, a decision needs to be made. And if you are in crisis, you don't have the luxury to make the perfect decisions, and that requires you to have a healthy relationship with confidence, being able to be with hesitations and move forward with courage despite the presence of fear, and deal with tremendous amount of anxiety because there's going to be uncertainties. Yeah, so therefore, dealing with crisis is a kind of um, it's the ultimate test for any leader. Whatever preparedness you've gone through, however you have managed to polish yourself, get ready. It needs to come in play and manifest itself. So yeah, so that's another thing that I think is extremely important when it comes to the time of crisis. One more thing I think it's worthy of bringing up is our relationship with forgiveness. So it often happens that if you're in crisis, there are root causes, and and we may easily be persuaded um, to focus on whose fault that was, and whom to blame, and which I'm not saying that this is not important to actually look into the matter and root causes and see what needs to be addressed later on. But if you are in a crisis, you don't again have the luxury to put a pause and then even be in grief of the troubled sides or the mistakes that are made either by yourself or the team members. Um, and uh, and temporary, we should be able to um, maybe not forget, but we should be able to forgive. Now, forgiving here is not necessarily an altruistic act. I'm not suggesting us to be benevolent and forgiving and in that sense, but actually it has a pragmatic function. If as a leader, when you're dealing with all that, and the best is, as we discussed, for you to actually focus on what to be done, and we need to respond quite swiftly, then we are going to be bogged down into, who's to blame, and not being able to move on and be carried over by blaming games and things like that, then that's going to actually get in the way of us being able to respond and avoid or minimize the amount of damage that it's going to incur, you know? So, how does that land to you when we discuss forgiveness in the context of crisis?
Yeah, no, it's very important to have that element as part of your toolbox, especially in times of crises. This is definitely not the time to stop to ponder what could have been. It is, it's happening. So, what are you going to do about it? And as leaders, we have to be very conscious that the feeling of being forgiven during these times is very powerful for those that are operating, because if they cannot be forgiven, so for maybe a decision they'd had to make on a split moment, and maybe it went wrong. Okay, it
Mhm.
went wrong. Next, let's go. Let's go. And you can have ease and flow, as we like to say, in the execution of a good solution for that crisis moment.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. So, I hope that this discussion was useful to our audience and they enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed it, and hopefully they're enjoying this conversation as well. Any final say before we wrap it up, Enrique?
Yeah, crisis we mentioned earlier is typically the moment you find out who the real leader is.
Mm.
And we could prepare, and it's good to prepare. Please have plans, as we mentioned before, right? Have operational plans that constitute or address potential crises. But as we just mentioned, give yourself some grace, because we are not perfect, although we try to present ourselves sometimes that way. Crises just is that's it is happening. So have preparations and learn how to be with the moment of crisis, because that's really where you win.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, Enrique, and thank you very much, everyone.